if you are someone that is considering leaving your country to move to another country, or you just really want to change environments completely, get rid of your stuff, fresh start kind of vibe, I think this video might be supportive for you. That's actually my intention, because 6 years ago, I was struggling with a lot of health stuff. Wasn't doing that great professionally, in my career, financially, and I just didn't feel like the place that I was where I wanted to get to, and I didn't feel like I could get to where I wanted to go where I was. So I ended up moving from America to Bali, Indonesia, and maybe that's not for everybody specifically. It's more, this could be eye-opening for why change can be really necessary for us to leave where we are to move to somewhere else. Change can be one of the best things for us, actually. And I hope that this can support in any way if you are considering making such a move. So I had this analogy that was actually mind-blowing for me. It's really simple. So imagine that your human spirit is a flower. And under the right conditions, everyone's flower is a little different. I have felt like a tropical flower for a lot of my life. So tropical flower needs a lot of sun, needs really healthy soil, and a lot of rain. And interestingly enough, it's raining right now. And what I discovered within myself was the part of my flower that had certain nutrients coming in. I felt like I was literally wilting where I was in a big city, so much concrete. I'm such a nature kid. And I felt like I was suffering in a lot of ways. Now, if you have a plant that's not thriving in the environments that it has, the sun, the soil, the water, what say you have to transplant it somewhere else, and it might have a new chance for life. And so that was what I realized that I did for myself. I transplanted my tropical spirit, my flower, to an environment that was way more conducive and more fertile soil for my creativity, for my musicality, even for my femininity to expand and grow. So if that resonates, let me know. But I think everyone has unique energies. Some people, the city is where they thrive. New York is like their vibe. That's where they crush it at life. And I'm actually not one of those people. And it's beautiful for everyone to have the space to realize that where you are born is not necessarily where you're supposed to be your whole life. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky, way out of the city, and what a beautiful environment to grow up in. But it was small town mindset, small town energy, and I knew at a young age, I was like, I love being in nature, but it's just such a small town mindset that I knew that I needed to leave to continue to grow, to continue to evolve. And for those that have had some health issues coming up, or whatever it is with your body, what I do know is that sometimes our bodies can show ailments or symptoms, or even have exasperated disorders based off of disharmonies in the mind and the heart and the spirit. And I think it's about 10 years ago now, I was diagnosed with an incurable disorder called interstitial cystitis. And I was in a world of pain. And I don't have as much photo evidence of how inflamed and how much more heavy my body got, because I hid from the camera, because I was still in the limelight as a singer and as a performer and as a model. And so when I was not doing well, I'd hide. But interstitial cystitis is a chronic, painful disorder of the bladder. And I was reaching and searching for all kinds of solutions, and I couldn't really find any, and I was struggling with my health. And then emotionally and personally, being in that environment, I just felt like I needed something different. And when I had the opportunity to visit Bali, all parts of my system were like, this feels right. This feels like what I need. And I'm so grateful for America. I'm so grateful for everything that I've learned. And I think there's different places that you can call home in different stages in your life. And as much as sometimes we can fear what's on the other side of change, the unknown can be very scary. But I feel like what I realized inside of me was I had more excitement towards the possibility of what can unfold, what better version of myself I could discover, versus staying complacent and doing the same thing that I know kind of what the outcome is. It's like what's in the other side of this unknown and the potential fear. Yes, there's potential of disaster or failure, all these things, but any choice you make, there's that potential. So sometimes leaving the soil of where you grew up can be really supportive. And I think that's what's beautiful about the world. We can travel and we can discover other places and other parts of ourselves. So Bali is really special to me and my heart, and I actually wrote a song about my love of Bali to honor it. That's how much I actually appreciate this place. But upon being here, I feel like I had transplanted my human spirit flower into a really feminine, charged, sunny, warm environment that was easier on my system. And I went through a massive round of detoxing, and I started finding this opportunity that became really fruitful of my creativity and my design skills as a fashion designer. Next thing you know, I've built a 7-figure business over the course of 5 years by serving women and making their fashion dreams come true, and also really lovingly working with the locals. And that's one thing I'll say about what I learned about when you travel to other places, and especially if you uproot into another country, one of the most beautiful and important things I believe is to see how you can show up in that country and add value, not just be there. What's in it for me? What can I take? What can I receive? But also, what can you bring and give back as, in a way, a minority, you know? And so one of the things that I love about Bali is the fact that the people here are so kind and so beautiful and so patient and so sweet. And it's taught me a lot about community, actually, because growing up in America, I was out in the middle of the country, and I didn't have many neighbors growing up, and I didn't feel as connected to what you would call like a really strong family community. But it's very much like that here, which is why I feel like they're such generous and kind people, because they'll just like show up and support you as if they know you as a friend. And so that's one of my desires that I always like to share with my friends. And make sure you tip the locals. Make sure you appreciate the people here. I know, because sometimes people come with the unawareness that you could be a bit of a taker energy, or people are here to serve me, I'm on vacation, but it is the Balinese' home. And I think the more that like we can grit it into our system, the art of being generous of spirit, especially when we're stepping into other people's country, I think that it's just a beautiful culture as tourists or as expats to get in the consistent awareness of, is how can we give back to this beautiful space, to the beautiful people, and to its land when we come and we leave our soil and nestle somewhere else. So I think that's a really valuable thing to consider if you decide to visit Bali, you want to move to Bali, or you're wanting to leave your country to move to another country. It's just a beautiful thing to be aware of, and I feel like it's good karma, and it comes back to you. And I've been so grateful and fortunate to have so many Indonesian friends and a lot of teammates that I work with on a regular basis for my fashion brand. So I have been asked this before: what is your favorite thing about Bali? It is really hard to answer specifically what my favorite thing is, but there is a sense of freedom that I feel when I get on a scooter, and instead of driving in a car, which is what I've spent most of my life driving in a car, there's a freedom of the wind in your hair and this sovereignty. Sometimes you just like are driving by yourself. There's like an independence that I feel. And one of the gifts of being here is there's so many different restaurants, different coffee shops, and so many things. And it's a really active and lively environment that you can be in and live in. And I'm really grateful for the fact that I feel like I have access to everything I need in a small region. Now, because I used to live in LA, everything was really spread out, and I might stay in the car for an hour to get to somewhere that I need versus, oh, I'm just gonna go down the road. So I love that freedom. Now, the negative side to all of the freedom that people feel on scooters is the amount of traffic. There is a lot of traffic these days. And I moved here, like I said, about 6 years ago, had health stuff, had challenges, and I've actually birthed myself time and time and time again through my health, through my finances, through my passion as a singer and as a fashion designer. But in this process, so now I've been able to see what it's like to be in Bali during COVID times when it was really empty. Pros and cons. It was like driving down the street with no one honking at you. It was so empty and spacious. And I really appreciated that part about traveling, and there was less exhaust in the air. And that's kind of like not a great thing about the air quality here, partly because there's also building a lot and concrete being poured and a lot of things being built, which once again, there's pros and cons to all aspects of the economic boom in Bali. But overall, I think it's, from what I understand from talking to the locals, part of the economy is built on tourism. So actually for the locals to make money, part of the way that they've built their jobs is to be in the service industry quite a bit. And without tourists coming to come support the restaurants or these different things, or being a Gojek driver or these other ways, like during COVID, there was a lot of struggle, and had a bunch of friends, myself included, that we would donate money to villages to do just a small part to support, because there was a scarcity happening. One time I was driving on a bike, and I was leaving my coffee shop, and I was just feeling good to a song, and I saw this scooter come up behind me, two guys in black, and I was like, that seems kind of sketchy, but I'm like rocking myself out. And it was during like the COVID times, and the bike came up, tried to grab my phone out of the front pocket. And I was like, yeah! And I grabbed my knee and I pushed on the thing, because my phone is very valuable to me. And I totally floored it and crashed into the road, and they took off. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, what a huge impact to feel like a bit violated. But I realized they were doing it out of necessity. And what's interesting too is it was like some Indonesians that tried to steal my phone. And after I crashed, it was a group of like 10 Indonesians that came out of nowhere into the street to support me. And so there is that beautiful dichotomy that I experienced. Like, there's so much love and support from the locals. But yeah, tourism is important, and I do believe and hope, and it's a big topic of conversation, is how can it be in balance with the amount of building and the amount of businesses and the amount of tourists, with also stabilizing nature and the economy, and also keeping it where it supports the locals and the culture and nature. So that's a rant specifically on Bali. But one thing to say is that if you feel like where you are, you do have some health struggles, or you have some mindset struggles. You're like, I don't know where I'm going to. I feel like I'm stuck where I am. Or you're in what feels like a dead-end relationship with your job or with your person. You know, one thing that I've come to realize is when everything feels like it's in resistance, so much negative is around you or happening. Sometimes we hit rock bottom to make choices. And I wasn't at full rock bottom in LA, but I was in some ways close to it. I felt like I had been there long enough. And it wasn't that it was just specifically about Los Angeles, but a lot of just my lifestyle and how I felt. I felt like I was wilting. And I really do feel like if where you live, what apartment you're in, what relationship you're in, what job you're in, if you feel like your soul is wilting, if you feel like you're dying on the inside, it just means that something needs to change. And sometimes making a break and going to another country just to visit, just to see, is one of the things that can help add nourishment to your soul and hopefully to your body and your whole being. So Bali's been good for me. I'm grateful for this journey to come and move here. There's definitely more things specifically that I could talk about around, like legally. I think it's really important to make sure that everything is above ground, that you do all your research to make sure that things are up to par. You know what I mean? And one thing I'll say here is, if you like this video, please comment with any questions that you have about my experience with leaving my country to another one, or anything about the contrast of what I knew I needed when I was in such a low state from where I was. Any questions you all have, please put them here. And if you enjoy me talking about something so personal, my personal life of my love of Bali, but also where I came from, please also hit the like button and follow me for more, because I'd love to share more. And I hope that this offered some insight, and I'll see you later.